Welcome to Business Coaching Secrets with Karl Bryan. If you want to attract new high-end coaching clients, fill live events, and build a wildly profitable coaching practice where business owners pay, stay, and refer, you've come to the right place. In this podcast, Karl provides his keys to the kingdom for finding and signing high-paying clients and building the coaching business of your dreams. Here we go.
Hey everybody, and welcome to another episode of Business Coaching Secrets. Your boy Road Dogg here with the man of the hour, the man, the myth, the legend, the one that lives on top of the hill, my boy King Karl. How are you, bud?
Yo, Road Dogg, doing great, bud. How's it going there, Shoots?
Doing good, doing really good. Just enjoying another week of doing this with the man with the giant head and the small feet, Mr. Karl Bryan.
Why, thank you, Road Dogg. Thank you. Let my secrets out.
It's tough to pack all that knowledge into a small head, and that's why God gave you a big one. So there you go, right? Like, you know, He didn't give you everything, like height, but He gave you smart.
There we go. It was good to me, Road Dogg. He was good to me. So what do we got this week, Shoots? Give me the.
Well, it's
hit me, man.
Speaking of big head, I don't want. Oh boy. Do I go? I have to go there. So somebody actually wrote in, and I am rolling my eyes, everybody, as I'm reading this. Would you classify yourself as, wait for it, an influencer? And is that a goal that you recommend pursuing? These are two separate topics in and of itself right here. But let's go ahead and break that down, Shoots. What do you got first?
Okay. Is that the exact wording?
Would you classify yourself as an influencer? And influencer in quotes, by the way. And is that a goal you recommend pursuing? Which, fair enough. You know, hey man, online right now is everybody wants to be an influencer. But
true enough.
So
true enough. Yeah. So the answer is freaking no. So yeah, what do you want? You got to start with that, right? What do you want? You would have heard me talk about Uber metaphor probably many times. They built a $150 billion company or whatever Uber's worth nowadays. Who knows? But it's an insanely huge number. Two questions. Where are you at? Where do you want to go? So if you want to be an influencer, go for it. But I consider myself, I am building a company. And by virtue of the fact that somebody has become an influencer, I can tell you that pretty much guarantees that they haven't built a company. And I know it doesn't appear like that on the sides, you know, on the sidelines and whatnot. And, you know, certainly not on Facebook because I put up a post and get their 200 comments. So like, yeah, I'm building a company and I help people build coaching businesses, right? So again, how would where would you find the time to influence and build a company, right? It's like I stopped doing interviews and I just, for that reason, like I build my business, you build yours, everybody have at her. Like Larry Page, Zuckerberg, Bezos, you know, like just name, you know, like certain, you know, Walton back in the day and Warren Buffett. Like they're not out there on Facebook making controversial posts and like, you know, doing webinars. It's not happening, right? So yeah, just in and out. No, am I an influencer? No, I help people that are, the way I see it, like my messaging, what I would like to get out there is I help people that are passionate about business, marketing, and wealth create a career doing it, right? So like our top guys build businesses, like build coaching businesses. Like, so if you are a business coach and you don't have coaches working under you, and that doesn't suggest in any way that you should start there, right? What you should do is get out there, build up your coaching. Actually, sorry, before I continue with that thought, like, what do you want, right? Again, it's the Uber metaphor. Like, where are you trying to get to? And if your goal is to crush it, you know, 250 grand, 500 grand a year, and you really want to blitz it, well, you're not going to, if you're a one-to-one coach and you don't have coaches working for you, you know, that's going to be a very tall order, right? And it's going to be built on a house of cards because that means you're going to have a few clients paying you an enormous amount of money. And those clients are going to cancel at some stage. So then, you know, in the accounting world, refer to that as concentration risk, right? Whenever you've got too much money tied up in specific clients or too much responsibility tied up in a staff member, or there's a whole, you know, too much profit coming off of one individual product in a company, you've got concentration risk. And you should, be careful of that. So the bottom line is, what is it you're looking to do? But yet again, if you have a coaching business and you don't have coaches underneath you, then, that's probably not the ideal scenario. So, and remember, not just a business, but we want profitable business. You could build a $20 million company and it can lose money. You could build a $20 million company and make 60 grand, right? The magic of coaching that I don't think a lot of people really recognize is that we play with 70, 80% margins, right? Like, it's crazy that people don't realize that. Like, we'll meet a guy okay, here's an example. Somebody's going to get started as a business coach. Let's say that they're going to work underneath you, right? And then they make $100,000 at their XYZ corporate job. What they don't realize is that they don't make $100,000. That's the sales pitch from the establishment, right? You're really, if you make 100 grand in corporate America, you're really bringing home about 55, okay? Because the 45 is getting lit on fire by a tax, right? So if the guy was going to come and work for you, you've got to make sure that he's clearing 55 grand, not 100,000. And why that's so relevant is the psychology of somebody, leaving their corporate cushy gig and then coming in with you. And then of course somebody's going to chime in with benefits. And yes, you need to factor that in as well. Okay. But if we just go spade for spade, basically 100 equals 55. And that's the number that you got to play with in order to bring them over. Right. So like if you get 10 clients at $1,000 a month, that's $120,000. So if we do half that well, like as in every client cancels at the 6-month mark, or you only get 5 clients at $1,000 a month, you make 60 grand. The guy get a pay raise or the gal got a pay raise. And then if we help them make 60 in year 1, surely we could get them to 80 in year 2 and then 100 in year 3 and then beyond. Remember, if you have 20 clients at $2,000 a month, that's $480,000 a year, right? Like again, you can absolutely pull that off and you will have attrition. And it's, as I say that, it's like, oh, wow, that sounds so easy. It's far from easy. It's very, very challenging, but you'd absolutely crush it. But that's the bottom line is you want to be building a coaching company. Like one of my top guys, he has 70 coaches underneath him. He had 0 coaches underneath him when he started. And by the way, we have a profit sharing deal. Again, he pays me over $20,000 a month, him alone, right? He's happy as a lark. But the bottom line is that he has built a business and he's built an asset worth multiple 7 figures that he can grow. So if you show me an influencer, I'll show you somebody who hasn't built a company. So they, that's just, and then show me one, right? Go online and go search out the influencers and then show me one that's actually built a company, right? With staff and, like real staff and managers and, whatever. Hopefully you guys are getting the idea, right? So no, I have no desire to be an influencer whatsoever. Truth is, I used to, I thought that was kind of well, celebrity is an unbelievable hack. That's an absolute fact. But really, I just adjusted my sales. It's like why politics are such a joke because like somebody will say something in like 1976 and then they make a commercial about it and hold you to it, right? Like it's like by sheer virtue, like you got to be able to, adjust as you're moving along. In fact, Jeff Bezos, what did he say? I'm going to make a meal of this quote, but it's something to the effect of someone that is right a lot is somebody who changes their mind a lot, right? Like think about that. And I believe that to be absolutely, the truth and fact. And I'd go back to the fact again, I thought that, becoming an influencer was a great idea to get out there and do interviews and do this and that and the other and realize it's crazy goal, right? And then like anything in excess kind of becomes the opposite. Like, somebody drinks too much alcohol, guess what? They become a non-drinker, right? Somebody has too much confidence. They end up, being, it falls into the side of arrogance that works against them, right? Somebody has too much humility, that becomes weakness, right? You get too popular and people start hating on you, right? So if you want to be an influencer, I'll just tell you, I hope you enjoy getting the brunt of some negative comments. And remember, like the 2 greatest fears of anybody out there, the guy asking this question, do you want to become an influencer? Is like fear of losing love and fear of not being enough. So becoming an influencer is a highway towards those 2 greatest fears hitting you right in the forehead. And some people have a, serious thick skin and they can handle it and they just, cruise along. But most people come crashing down, self-sabotage, etc. So I would just, for everybody listening, again, the benefit of, business coaches, what I, encourage you to become an influencer. Like, it's better than not being an influencer. But that being said, I think it's a really lame goal. What do you really want? And I bet what you like the idea of is making $250,000 a year net, and doing it in a predictable and a consistent way. So my opinion would be that being an influencer is not the way to do that. Concentrate on building a company, right? Like, hiring staff. If you don't have at least a virtual assistant, as an example, that would be a huge mistake. So Road Dog, yeah, again, I don't know how good of a job I'm doing of answering that question, but that's definitely not my goal. And I would caution anybody who's pursuing that, because you might find that the end result is not necessarily, it's a lot of people kind of hating on you and that sort of stuff. And Larry Page is not trying to become an influencer. Jeff Bezos is not trying to become an influencer. So decide who your mentors are and the people that you're working towards. Like I had Jeff Bezos, Ray Dalio, Warren Buffett, those kinds of guys. They built companies, and I think they should be celebrated big time. And the mistake that I see out there is that a lot of people are pawning after the influencers. And when you really break it down, what they have built is not very impressive. So that's my take, Road Dog. How's that, buddy?
I couldn't even tell you, besides the name Kardashian, who the hell an influencer is anyways, to be honest with you, because I only follow people like you're saying that have just built stuff. You know what I mean? Like one of my coaches said it best. Do you want to be popular or do you want to be profitable? And I'm like, that's it. Stop chasing the likes. Right? Like, anyway.
Yeah. Well, Road Dog, that comes back to the question, right? What do you want, right? Do you want to be profitable or do you want to be popular, right? And make your decision, and then let your habits and your daily activities answer for themselves. So there you go.
When you're saying people are going to hate on you, dude, people are going to hate on you no matter what. It's their own. It doesn't matter. Like Bezos, Buffett, people hate on them too. So we just got to all just grow a bit of a thick skin here at times. But anyway, so the next question, which I think is amazing, it's, do you worry about complacency setting in? Listen, dude, like you and I have seen this again and again and again, where people, hey, I've fallen guilty. I've fallen into this trap. You have a bit of success, you become complacent. But the question is, do you worry about it? And then maybe you can touch on how to, you're probably going to answer it, how to avoid it, but do you worry about complacency setting in?
Yeah, I agree. Good question. And I tell you, for me, no, because I'm not going to stop. In fact, I can tell you that when I talk to a successful business owner and they say something that, like, what would it be? Like, it's not all about the success and money or some variation of that. I know that it's game over for that individual, right? Because again, it comes from a very passive, living in idle kind of place, or at least that would be on average. Remember, the game is won in the last 2 minutes. If you look at a football game, there are more points scored in the last 2 minutes of the half in the game than the rest of the game combined on average, right? Like, that is when it is won and lost. And most definitely those are when the most important points are won, right? Like, same with, like when you watch a tennis match, right? You'll see that Federer doesn't crush everybody 6-love, 6-love, 6-love. It's like 6-4, 6-4, 6-4. But he wins those important. And why at the 2 minute mark, at the last 2 minutes of the half and in the game, this is when everybody's tired, right? This is when the big boys come to play. It's like when we play hockey, like you take in a real hockey game with, something on the line, you take like 45-second shifts. And these are the best of the best, and the best athletes and the best trained hockey players in the world. They take 45-second shifts, right? Like not even a minute. Okay, who cares about the hockey players, the football players? When you're listening, like, my question is, what are you doing between 5 and 7 a.m.? What are you doing? And I'm only talking to the A-types or the high achievers. If you want to net 250, 500, legitimately $1 million a year, legitimately, because everybody tells me this is what they want, but I look at their habits and it says something entirely different. So make sure that again, your goals are in line with your values and, the direction that you're ultimately trying to go to. But what are you doing at 5 to 7 a.m.? Like, I was working this morning at 5 a.m. I was sitting in front of the computer, working. What were you doing? But understand that my goal might be, ridiculously different from yours. And I would dare say also between, let's call it 4 and 5:30. And I'm not the guy like Gary Vee saying, oh, you should work 24/7, grind. I don't believe in that either. I believe in working hard and playing hard. I believe in shutting off entirely for a period of time. But that being said, a lot of folks, they don't want to shut off. When I go on a holiday, like a lot of the time I'll go on a holiday and I'll work between, 5 and 8 in the morning, and then the family wakes up and then we get onto it. They don't even know that I was working. I just shut the laptop, and and by the way, I'm doing it for my own enjoyment. And there's plenty of days when I won't do that and I will just completely shut off. But the bottom line is it needs to be, right for the individual, but complacency is not something I worry about. And, if you're really, look, I think when it's all about I don't know, like it's not for everyone, right? But those that want to become uber successful, that's where the magic happens. And, when they hit $10,000 a month, let's say, and 120, and remember with 80% margin. So when they were making $100,000 in the corporate world, and then you start doing $10,000 a month as a business coach, it's like doubling your wage and then some, and then they ease up. This is the way it works.
So Karl, but why do people hit 10K per month and ease up?
Okay, because it was about the money, right? Like that's the problem. You gotta have a significantly greater vision than the money. Yeah. So if you hit, like if you actually hit your goal, if you know somebody who's had that happen, they hit that task and then they ease up. This was the problem. They didn't find anything that they were really pursuing significantly bigger than the paycheck, right? Like I've never worked harder than I do right now, right? Think of it this way: your body's the car and your mind's the driver, right? And are you servicing the car, or are you hitting turbo at every light? Because there's also that where you need to manage it in order to get to $10,000. Were they doing it in such a way that it was unsustainable, right? Like it was scramble. Like I remember a while ago, Road Dog, you asked something to the effect of, how do I go from 100,000 to 250, or it might have been 500,000, whatever. And I said, a feedback loop, right? Like the reason a business coach, gets to 100 and then doesn't manage to get to 250 is because they get to 100 and they start flying first class, or maybe I go, let's go 200, start flying first class, buy the 5 Series BMW. Like they take the extra money and they put it into their lifestyle. They buy a boat. Whereas when you go from 100 to 200,000, what you got to do is, let's say you were living on 60,000 at 100, you got to live on maybe 80,000. Okay. So take a little, take your wife out and go on a couple holidays and take the family to Disneyland. It's amazing. Couldn't recommend it highly enough. But then take the extra money and feed it back into your company. If you guys haven't listened to that podcast, I'm not going to replay it all here, but like a feedback loop is the gap between 100 and 200, 250, 500, and then definitely $1 million a year. So when you go from 100 to 200, what do you do with the extra 100? And if you're buying a boat and a new BMW, you're making a huge mistake. What do? Hire a staff member. Take 60 of that and hire somebody to sit beside you and work for you full time, right? Go to Facebook and go to Instagram, go to LinkedIn, go to wherever, maybe Parlor, because that's the new craze, and spend money on some advertising. Like that's what you do with the extra money. You don't go and pad your bank account. You don't go in multiple streams of income and go buy real estate, right? Like just give me a freaking break. Like it's just so, again, the multiple streams of income. Like if that's not the death knell of, so many different business owners out there. But I just tell you, like my own personal mantra, like I'm doing a program kind of on positioning right now. And it's, really interesting. And I got to tell you, it's been a very rewarding experience for me. And for those listening, again, this is the kind of thing you got to take your development seriously. Again, my goal isn't to, hit a particular income target, this, that, and the other. My goal is mastery. And by my definition, mastery is becoming better today than I was yesterday, and then better tomorrow than I was today. And then that's it, just every day. And what ends up happening is you get a compounding effect, right? Like it's not a linear growth at that stage, right? It compounds, it becomes exponential, very powerful in my opinion. Okay. Understanding that my goal might be significantly different from yours. So you got to make sure what it is, the Uber metaphor, what you want. But if you get that nailed down, life becomes easier. But I came up with this mantra, which I got to tell you, I freaking love it. Probably make a meal of it a little bit, but I just put, I will never stop is the name of it. I said, I'll never stop growing. I'm never going to stop achieving. I will never stop creating. I will never stop building up others and pushing them to succeed. As in, that's my clients. I will never stop making hard decisions. I will never stop growing my audience and positive influence. And I will never stop my goal of setting the standard for the entire business coaching community. Right. So I do not worry about complacency in any way. And then part of how I do that is that I'm just trying to become better than I was yesterday. Right. Like, it's not like once I get to a particular income goal, it's going to be enough. And then I made it. And then I'm going to start, spewing out to everybody how it's not about success and money. And I encourage others to think along those lines. And maybe in closing on that one, Road Dog, it's always about the others. Okay. It's like I meet a business coach and they won't do cold call. The only thing they're concentrating on is what they won't do. And one of those things is cold calls, right? Like if you won't do cold calls, you're not going to work out Facebook advertising. I'll give you the red hot tip, right? Like, believe me, Facebook advertising is very sexy, very delusional, sounds like a lot of fun. But if you're not going to pick up the phone, and the reason you won't pick up the phone is if you won't do it, it's because it's about you, right? And your ego and your feelings. Well, what about the guy who's suicidal? What about the family that's, currently getting separated, getting divorced because the wife or the husband, for that matter, is, just up in arms with how much money is getting wasted and how, little productivity and that sort of stuff, like how, basically the stress of the bills is eating away at them. Well, when they're spending $5,000 a month on a billboard on the side of the road and advertising that's not working and, getting taken by every Facebook advertising guy that calls up, it's heart-wrenching, right? So the reason you call the business owner is not to get a coaching client, call them to help them. Okay. So what I'm getting at there is you'll always do more for others than you'll ever do for yourself. So the secret is not to reach out on Facebook and reach out on LinkedIn and reach out on Instagram and reach out, via the phone and reach out a variety of different ways, like going to the networking function, going to the Chamber of Commerce meeting, going to the yacht club and meeting with all the folks there that have got, businesses and whatnot. You're going there to help them, not to help you. And when you see it from that place, and then you educate yourself in a way that you can legitimately help them, right? Like legitimately help them. It doesn't become a cold call. It becomes a customer. What would you call it? It becomes what am I trying to say? It becomes a giveaway as opposed to a take. You become Santa Claus, not the Grinch. And it comes from a very different place. Anyways, I'm making a meal of that one, but that's, you got to make it about them. If you make it about you, you won't do it, right? If you're wondering why it's so difficult when you look at the phone and you get scared because you're concentrating on you, you've got to concentrate on them. Like you drive by a house and there's a sign in the yard and you go, gosh, there isn't, oh, by the way, and there isn't a sign in the yard. Like, let's say somebody's painting the house and they're a neighbor of yours. And then the guy who owns the painting company doesn't have a sign in the yard. They're crazy. Okay. That sign will with 100% certainty bring in clients. Will it bring in an influx? And will that make him, his phone ring off the hook? No. But when you do your math at the end of the year, it will be dependent upon the numbers, but it will be an extra, 3, 5, 10, potentially 20 clients, depending upon scale and how many houses that they're doing. Right. So they don't have that. When you walk into the bar, okay, and they don't have a drink menu, I'll tell you, that is a bar who is not selling high-end drinks. If you understand how a bar works, it's 80, 20, 150. Like, they make the magic happens on those really expensive drinks. And some people want to drink the most expensive stuff, like the end. So anyway, so when you drive by the sign, the house, and there's no sign, or there is a sign and it's a stupid one, right? That does, it's name of the company, service, quality, dependability, and then the phone number and the web address at the bottom, like every sign, and the side of the truck would be the same, and most definitely the ads. And you're listening to the radio and you hear the local, XYZ company, the carpet cleaner, the landscaper, the moving company, the butcher, baker, candlestick maker advertising, and you listen to it and go, gosh, that could be so better so easily. Call them and let them know. Don't call them to get a client, get them to let them know, right? It becomes a community service. That's what I was trying to say earlier. It becomes like a community service effort, right? Where you're just like, oh, just so you know. And if you do that 10 times a day, certain people will reach out and, you know what I mean? Or the opposite, they'll say, well, how did you know that? And can you help? So anyways, I've talked about that, many a times, different times in the past, Red Dog, but it's so important. It's about them. It's not about you, and you will always do for more for others than you will do for yourself. And if you want an example of that, just, your kids have got to be at gymnastics, track, football, hockey, baseball at, at 6 a.m. On Saturday. You wake up and basically the kids are showered, shaved, everybody's rocking, everybody's in the car, and you're there 5 minutes early. But when it's your turn to get up, to go to the gym, go for a walk, go for a jog, hit the gym, you roll over and hit the snooze button. You always do more for others than you do for yourself. So you've got to frame it up that way. So Road Dog, that's what I'd say. But complacency, that's not a problem for me, and I hope that it's not for others. And if you change the end goal, the North Star, that'll be very favorable. There you go, buddy.
Oh, I totally forgot we were talking about complacency. You went off into quite the rabbit hole. What's interesting? You talk about the drink menu at the bar. Here's a pro tip. I don't know. Don't get your wings out in under 45 minutes. That would be a good service. What do you think?
Yeah. Road Dog and I went for beer and wings the other day. Oh my gosh. And then we get attitude over it too. Like, that's another one. When you're totally late, tell the waiter if he wants to get a good tip, maybe not to give the clients attitude when they do nothing more, and say, hey, what about those wings? Like, are they going to come? Because we got to get out of here. So anyways, whatever. Oh, Lord.
Hot wings equals people wanting to, wet their whistle. So I don't know. I'm no restaurateur, but I know that. Anyways, that was fascinating. Hey, you talked a lot about like events and the yacht club, which I don't know why we keep going with yacht club. I don't know why you keep going with Uber. Like, what about Lyft? Why do you hate Lyft so much? Like, is Uber sponsoring the show and I'm not aware? I'm not getting my, like, what the hell's going on?
They are. Didn't I let you know, man? That's it. You're sponsored by Uber. There you go.
I'll be expecting my royalty check any minute. Hey, so obviously when you're in those types of places, it's all about, networking. And somebody very timely put a question here. What are your thoughts on your network is your net worth? So I just thought that kind of tied in. So what do you think of that?
Yeah, that's good. That's, well, I'd go deeper than that, right? Like, there's no question your contacts matter, right? Like, so a business coach will go to BNI and then they come back and they're like, everybody's broke. And I'm like, yeah, okay, well, that's the company you were keeping, right? So like you said, Road Dog, you and I did an event, right? Where do we do it? Most expensive. What is the most, I asked you this question, right? What's the most expensive place in town? We came up with the yacht club. I said, that's where we're doing it. And the most expensive, it's not because Road Dog and I are trying to flash cash around. It's the yacht club is only 20% more expensive than the next place. But you can imagine when you invite people to the yacht club versus Denny's or Humpty Dumpty's or whatever the name of the local joint is, it's just slightly your business coach, right? You're there to advise business owners. I promise you that's a better place. And there's a higher caliber of people hanging out. So instead of hanging out at BNI, and by the way, nothing wrong with hanging out in BNI, but I would look at my 80/20s and I would measure my results. And I would dare say at the end of the year, at the end of 3 years, the end of 5 years, and definitely at the end of a year, end of a decade, by hanging out at the yacht club, golf courses, I don't know, exotic car clubs, these types of places, the contacts, like private schools. One of the, again, we talked about this not that long ago, but like one of the reasons why you send your kids to private schools is because the quality of the contacts and whatnot, the people that they hang out with, which right, wrong, pompous, I don't know, but you guys decide for yourself and for your family and for your kids and whatnot. But I can tell you that if you go and interview parents at a private school, this factors into it with 100% certainty, right? So yeah, like well, look, okay, speaking of contacts, I just say this, that there's 3 types of people. There's people you don't know, people you know, and people your network knows. Okay, let me say that again because this has got insane power. People you don't know, okay, people you know, and then people your network knows, okay? Number 3 is where the unused magic lies, right? Like everybody knows a lawyer, a banker, an accountant, right? People at the yacht club just know a slightly higher caliber of one, right? So basically, okay, so if number 3 is the magic and you start knocking around with people at the yacht club versus BNI, generally speaking, okay, when like people that your network knows is where the magic is. Well, guess what? Your network, your extended network through the people that you know, grows exponentially when you start, you know, making a higher caliber of contact. That makes sense, right? So and then not to mention the guy who drives, you know, I'm just gonna, you know, the 5 Series, you know, with BMW, and then lives in, you know, the biggest house on the street, yeti yeti yeti. His or her influence over their network is greater. Like the end. And I don't know, again, hopefully somebody's listening is going, oh my gosh, this is all about elitists, this, that, and the other. No, this is common sense. This is 101. This is, you can either fight it or you can profit from it, right? So basically take that for what it is, and you can get pissed off at it if you want, but this is the way, you know, this is just the 101. So people in those types of situations have a higher level of influence over their network. Okay, how does that benefit you? Because somebody, you know, you meet somebody at the exotic car club or the golf course, and then they go, you know what? A friend of mine started a business a couple of years ago. He's really grown at a decent pace, and he doesn't know what the heck he's doing. She doesn't know what the heck they're doing. You know, I'd like to introduce you, because some of that stuff that we were talking about on the 7th hole, I think could really benefit. You want me to make an introduction? Yes, please. Right. And then that person speaks to their contact, and they're like, wow, if Dave in the big house with the cool car is, you know, is recommending this person must be the bee's knees, right? So relationships are everything. So again, network is your network, no question. But here's a, like if you were to ask me like net worth, I would put a slightly different spin on it. I've basically been through the immigration process, right? So when you apply for permanent residency in a country, I can tell you that look, here's the things that they care about. Okay. Money, everybody thinks of, you know, net worth, generally speaking, and they think of money, right? And I know that's part of why we're getting asked this question. Network is your net worth, right? So money is absolutely, you know, if you've got $1 million in your bank account, there's a really good chance you can just walk into a company and, you know, wham, bam, thank you, man. They just gift you residency, or you buy X amount, or you bring in a business, right? So money is part of that. And then your health, right? You've got to do health checks. And if you've got, you know, if you've got brutal health, you're not getting permanent residency or residency in a particular company. Why? Because you're going to put an enormous amount of, you're going to add to the strain on their existing health system, right? So your health, you've got to, you know, go through some health checks. And if you're super healthy, you get bonus points. And if you're not so healthy, it's against you. Skills is absolutely like, do you have a degree? Are you a software engineer? Do you have skills they don't currently have in the company? And do you have sought after skills, right? So like if you're a software engineer, that will work in your favor big time as you're trying to come into a company. Like I stayed on a marketing sponsorship. Like so basically I stayed on a marketing sponsorship, and then I stayed on a sporting sponsorship, right? So I had skills, and that effectively assisted me in helping. And then influence would also come into it, I would call it. And that's like, if you get letters from some high profile people, right? Like I had, when I was applying, right? Like I had letters from people that were pretty high flying folks. And there is no doubt when they see that these high flying folks are willing to, you know, write a letter on my behalf, that works in your favor. So I think there's power in that, right? Like not just going to the granular, you know, net worth, that kind of thing. You know, going to what does a country want from you? You know, if you really think so, contacts is part of it. But, you know, money, health, skills, and influence are, you know, play a huge role. So network is your net worth. Absolutely, Road Dog. And again, I want everyone, just 3 types of people you don't know, people you know, and people your network knows. You probably haven't spent 5 minutes in the last 5 years thinking about the people that your network knows, and that can be magic. In fact, like here's one of, okay, let me just give you a real quick, you know, what we do is we take on business coaches and we help them grow their business, right? And then we also take folks who aren't doing consulting currently, and then we encourage them to add it to their business. So an accountant would be a real simple one. So we go to the accountant and go, gee, you must get asked a lot of questions around growing businesses and marketing businesses and, you know, business models and whatnot that work. Do you get paid for that work, or is that you kind of just do it pro bono? they'll tell you how frustrated they are and how annoying it is and how much free consulting that they do. And it's a time suck, right? And it doesn't add to their bottom line. So we'll go to that individual and we'll help them become a consulting firm, or, a company that's doing promotional goods, selling golf balls, T-shirts, that kind of stuff, right? So a promotional company, well, same thing. When they're doing all this, like, the question is, when the guy orders 1,000 golf balls, the first question should be why, and then Uber metaphor, where are you at? Where do you want to go? And then understanding what they're trying to get out of these 1,000 golf balls. And there's probably a strategy about only 9 million times more effective than golf balls. But the problem is they don't have a freaking clue. And the last guy did the golf balls, and last year they did golf balls. They're going to do golf balls this time. And guess what? The guy who runs the company loves golf, right? And it's great. But is that the right strategy? So if you think about it, we'll go to the promotional company and we'll say, well, you're doing $3 million a year in promotional goods, but are you doing consulting on the back end? And by the way, your existing margins on those promotional goods are like, 10, 15, 20, 30%, whatever they are, low. When you do consulting and proper consulting, like $1,000 a month is low end consulting, $2,000 a month is proper consulting. And we've got guys that charge $5,000 to $10,000 a month. Let's just go $2,000 a month to keep it simple. Well, if the promotional company starts selling $2,000 a month, we'll call it coaching / consulting, like a hybrid, that's a $24,000 unit of sale with like 70 to 80% margins. Like, sign me up. Let's go. Like, why are they not doing that? Doesn't make a lot of sense. So anyways, no doubt. And then of course we go to somebody who's, let's say they're selling advertising for a living, or they're selling those promotional goods for a living. And then we say, gee, you should really think about becoming a business coach, because how they're paying you $100,000. It's not really $100,000. It's really 55, just an FYI. Okay. And then they throw up in their mouth a little bit. And then we help them with, well, why don't you do this instead? Like, start calling your own shots. You'll never miss another birthday party. You'll never miss another, dance recital. You never miss another hockey game, football game, baseball game. You work for yourself and you do well. Okay. What I'm getting at. So let's give you guys a little bit of an insight as to what we do, right? Well, when we call somebody, we'll say this, hey, we live in Kelowna, right? Road Dog and I. So I would call somebody in Kelowna who would be a well-networked individual. Let's say it's going to be Road Dog, right? So I get a hold of Road Dog's number through however I get a hold of it. And I'd call him up and say, hey, Road Dog, I got a crazy question for you. Yada, 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 a bit like what I just talked about in consulting, and, 20 clients or $2,000 a month is $240,000, 70 to 80% margins. We've got a process where we can find any business owner $100,000 in 45 minutes without them spending $1 on marketing or advertising. So then I'd say, so Road Dog, I got a crazy question for you. Do you know anybody who you think would fit the bill perfectly? Somebody who follows Tony Robbins, somebody who's highly motivational, somebody who's just really passionate about business, marketing, or wealth. Well, we could help them turn that into a career. Road Dog, would you know anybody? Well, see, again, it's people that your network know, right? In fact, that would actually be somebody who I don't know, because presumably I just called Road Dog out of the blue because I found him on the internet. He was recommended to somebody. And then I'm even asking him who he knows. But the X factor of what I just did and what I just said is that if I've called the right individual, as in Road Dog, guess what he says back? Yeah, me. Right? Boom. But it's an old Xerox trick from way back in the day. But I don't phone Road Dog and say, hey man, do you want to make $250,000 a year as a business coach? We can really crush it. I mean, you can do that. It's a very direct approach. Would I recommend it? No. What I would recommend is you do exactly what I just said. And then you phone people and say, do you know anybody? So thinking about calling your warm network, or when you're at the yacht club, you're at the golf course, you're at the exotic car club, like as an example, do you know anybody who fits this? Like, do you know anybody who owns a business that's only been in business about 3 years, does about, seven figures and above, but really looking to grow and would like to, some guidance on how to go about growing a team, growing a business, becoming significantly more profitable than they currently are, right? And then that individual can recommend somebody to you. The important bit of what I just said is you don't phone them and ask them directly. You phone them to say, do you know somebody who? And then a lot of the time, the person that you're sitting there with, the person you're speaking to goes, yeah, me, if you've done that properly. So anyways, Road Dog, I hope that helps. But your network is your network. Absolutely. And there you go, Shoots. There you go.
Well, that's sort of how you and I met, right? Like, I walked into the bathroom at the Tawasin Curling Club, and there's our good mutual friend Vetter writing on the wall for a good time called Carl.
You're an
and then that's it, right? So I'm
Oh,
like,
geez.
I like a good time. So there you go.
Oh, Road Dog, let's keep going, dude. Let's
But
keep
more
going.
on a
I can't. I
serious,
got nothing.
more on a serious note, though, that not exactly how it played out, but we did meet through a mutual friend, and I didn't know who the hell you were. And next thing you know, you thought I was some sort of a handyman, which I don't know. I don't know how that happened. But yeah, you never know who your network knows. So it's a fair point right there.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
anyways, stepping back. So do I want to say this is I don't know. It's a question we get a ton, man, like a ton. Should I specialize in one discipline or become a generalist? Like you probably get asked this every single day, no?
Yeah. Yeah. I think again. Yeah, it's a common one for sure. Specialize in one. Again, you ask different people. You ask me on a different day, you might get a slightly adjusted answer. But I'll just tell you, in all cases, billionaires, and I love, again, rather than studying millionaires, start studying billionaires, and you might find that, the impact or the quality of the information that drops onto your lap, or just listen to me and let me translate it all for you. But billionaires, they have a deep knowledge in a number of business disciplines with like 100% certainty, right? Like sales, marketing, finance, accounting, copywriting, digital marketing, branding, negotiation, you name it. They basically the all-in-one guys. So, dial in and become like a subject expert would make sense, right? Like let's assume sales and marketing is going to be your shtick, which is a really good one. Remember, you have a product called you and you get paid for it. So this is a really good place to start. And it's got that sexy delusional. Let me add digital sales marketing and digital marketing. Let's chuck that in there because, again, everybody loves it. But I would say this, it's a journey, because then what happens is people get pigeonholed, right? So think of a basketball player. Like Michael Jordan changed the game big time. In fact, I really believe that he changed sports to a certain degree. Because like basketball players were either offense or defense, right? Well, Michael Jordan decided, after losing to the Detroit Pistons time and time again, that he was going to become like defense was going to be his thing, right? The offense came naturally, and he was going to concentrate on defense, and he ended up winning multiple times the Defensive Player of the Year. And I don't think a lot of people realize that. Like Michael Jordan was the Defensive Player of the Year multiple times. It should blow your mind, right? So, okay, what am I saying? Just because you're, quote unquote, sales and marketing guy or a sales and marketing gal, and that's your background, that doesn't mean that you need to pigeonhole yourself and, stay there. Like you could go and become, small business finance and accounting. I can't remember the language of business. If you give me 100 people and I say, put up, like, what is the language of business? 80% of the audience, if not 95% of the audience, will put up their hand for sales and marketing. When in actuality, and this is Warren Buffett, right? He will tell you that the language of business is accounting, right? So studying that would be not a bad idea. But then somebody goes, yeah, but I'm a sales and marketing guy or gal, so they won't go into it. And then I think if you adjust your thinking and you start thinking of it as a journey, right? Like, again, think of my definition of mastery. And I think lots of people think of it this way, but it's just becoming better today than you were yesterday and better tomorrow than you are today, right? And then you get this compounding effect, right? So yeah, I would, you should definitely, you should drill down and become a subject expert in one thing. Okay. So that's what I'm talking about: digital marketing, sales, marketing, what have you, or, accounting, finance. But then you should, let your feathers go and start learning other disciplines, right? And certain things you should always maintain total control of. Like Warren Buffett to this day, right? I think he's 90 years old as we talk about this. He still to this day handles all capital allocation decisions as well as compensations and incentives for staff. Like he's still, so again, before capital allocation, that's a flashy way of saying, okay, well, they're going to take, whatever number, and he plays with big ones. So let's say he's going to take $1 billion and put it into Apple, or he's going to take $1 billion and take it out of the airline industry. Warren Buffett ultimately makes that decision, right? There's a lot of decisions that he doesn't make. That one, to this day, he does not forego. including Charlie Munger. He consults Charlie Munger, no doubt, but ultimately Warren Buffett signs off, and as well as compensation. So somebody comes into work and whatnot, what kind of compensation, what sort of incentives, what sort of profit sharing, etc. Do they have? That's, he still maintains those. So understanding that's what Warren Buffett does, I would highly encourage, you and again, your coaching clients by default in terms of you helping them to be thinking about these types of things, right? So, and like, if you want to become more productive, right? Like if you want your clients to become more productive, like what do you do every single day, right? It's like, it's brush your teeth, it's have breakfast. I don't know, you're going to jump in the car and drive to work. It's the clothes. Hopefully you're wearing clothes, you choose them first. But like the clothes that you're choosing, right? Lunch, and then deciding you're going to wait in line. And then, by nature of the fact that you're waiting in line for lunch, that means that what you're getting served is going to be pretty much guaranteed to be garbage food. That's going to decrease your energy for the rest of the day. Stuff like, cleaning your house, right? Like those are the things, if you want to become more productive and do understand that somebody becomes a billionaire versus a millionaire, the gap is the fundamentals and just being a little bit more efficient on a daily basis. Like go to your things that you do on a daily basis. Get your clients to go to the things that they do on a daily basis, and basically get someone else to do it. Again, I've talked about this many a times, but like instead of driving to work, get Uber, and then you've got an extra hour to work in the back of the car, and suddenly the traffic jam doesn't bother you so much, right? Like decision fatigue is a thing, and a very big thing. In fact, we could capitalize that and enlarge it and bold it and italicize it, right? So limit the number of decisions that you're making on a daily basis. The way, again, Steve Jobs wore the same thing over and over again. Zuckerberg wears the same thing over and over again, right? And then even like the tasks that you can't stand doing, forego those. But and I'm going to assume, of course, that your goal is to build a large company, right? Like if somebody's just semi-retired, they want to make $100,000. You want to take everything I'm saying and you want to water it down a little bit and make it right for, like your goal, your end play. But that's, you look, becoming a generalist. I wouldn't say that. I would say you need to become elite at something, right? Like I would encourage you to become the world's best at something, like make that your North Star and nothing short of. Like I've got a buddy right now, he does sports collectibles. And I just said to him, I said, flat out, man, here's the goal. I think if you want to crush it, you want them to remember you, you want a bronze statue one day, you've got to set your goal on becoming not, to make some money and to trade some cards and get a hold of, Bobby Orr and Wayne Gretzky and whatever else that, you're trying to get your hands on, and Dan Marino, whatever type paraphernalia. You've got to make your goal to be the world's greatest. And like that changes absolutely everything. It's like the Kobe Bryant. I've told you guys this many a times, and I'll continue to, because the power. But like Kobe Bryant wanted to be the greatest of all time. So by deciding what he wanted, everything became easier. So if your goal becomes to be the number one business coach in the city, the number one business coach in the state, and then the number one business coach in the country, and maybe the number one business coach in the world, do you just do sales and marketing? Like, right? So do you become just one discipline? Or do you learn, again, you don't become a generalist, but you learn the other facets so that you can, help your clients in all different areas. And by the way, help your own company. You got to be your own client. So that's what I'd say, Road Dog. Like, again, if you go by the greats of the greats, they understand all disciplines and they don't do it overnight. They do it over time, and they read books. Like, again, I'll meet somebody who they tell me how horrible they are at sales. And I say, is that important to you in order to achieve the goal that you've got for your coaching business? Is this something, a saw that you've got to sharpen a little bit? They go, absolutely. I go, how many books on sales have you read over the last 30, 60, 90 days? And everybody listening, right? I don't need to tell you what the answer is. It's an obvious one. And it's always zero. Well, okay, you're not going to get there, right? So if you're a sales and marketing guy or gal, and you accept that you need to start working on, finance, or maybe it's copywriting, whatever, go get yourself a book, go get yourself a program, head to YouTube and start searching this stuff, and you'll see it right there. So that's what I'd say to that, Road Dog. That's a great question. And the answer is it's a journey, and accept it to be a journey and enjoy it. Again, don't love what you do, don't do what you love, fall in love with what you do. That's the, part of the bigger picture. So hope that helps, Rich. There we go. There's my answer.
Okay, so first off, how dare you? Like you mentioned Uber, you tossed that around like it's nobody's business. But your good buddy has a sports car, and you can't even mention his business name. Like, come on, shit. Like, oh,
You do it for me, Road Dog. You do it for me.
well, it's actually just pulling it up. We got to talk to him. He doesn't even have his business name on his truck, like on his little whatever that half truck thing that he drives. It's not even on there. He just has his phone number on there, and it's like I'm supposed to be all impressed. It's amazing. Uh, Anyways, real quick on your point here about the generalist. Correct me if I'm wrong, because this is my big takeaway of the day. So, which means we can all close out after this one because I got my brain waves. So, because I think, would you say that people, when they say, look, my niche is whatever, contractors,
Yep.
are they also maybe looking at it from the wrong perspective? Not saying that that's bad, like you could do that, but look at it from the other side of, hey, my expertise or my is like bundling or continuity programs. And then you can, because you can apply that to multiple different businesses, right? Like that's just.
Yeah, no, I'd agree. High five. So what I'd say to that is like you could double niche, right? So you could become specialized in building, like teaching referrals to roofers, right? So you're going roofing and then you're going referrals. But here's what's going to happen. So before it's like, oh my gosh, is that all I'm going to do? What ends up happening the same way like business coaching is my thing, right? Like that's my niche. Pretty obvious, right? The name of the podcast, Business Coaching Secrets. It's right there in plain black and white. But I've got over 100 clients that are accountants, and I've got all kinds of business brokers, and we bring in digital marketers. We sign up nowadays like falling off a log, right? Because why? Because they don't desperately need our help. Because again, Facebook ads is not the solution to everything. So we teach them that, you know, if you meet a client and they have cash flow problems and accounts receivable problems, et cetera, teaching them Facebook ads is just, it's ridiculous. So the digital marketer needs to become a full stack consultant, right? So, but what they can do, like, so by being the business coaching guy, I've got the digital marketers, the business consultants, the marketing consultants, the digital consultants, et cetera, coming. So if you become the referral, a coach that specializes in referrals for roofers, you will find roofers of all shapes and sizes will be coming to you for other stuff. So in the words of Dan Kennedy, what they end up doing is the crowd will put the crown on your head, right? So you don't put yourself out there as the guy that specializes in building roofing companies, but you put yourself out there in that manner, and then they put the crown on your head as the head of the roofing fraternity, presuming, of course, that you're doing a bang-up job and not, becoming an influencer and rah, and putting controversial posts on Facebook. But what you're doing is you got a feedback loop, and you're hiring staff, and you're building a company, and you're building products, and you're not just building products because the other guy's building a product. You're building a product that has, like, it's a problem that you see, and then you build a product that is the solution, right? So again, comes back to, it's not about coming up with cool ideas. It's about solving problems, right? So anyway, so that's the answer to that is, you build a double niche, but they'll end up putting the crown on your head. It happens. Just look around you and you'll see exactly what I'm talking about.
Beauty. So you want to close us out, Bud, with giving our listeners the one thing they can do today from today's podcast?
The one, I'm going to go back to, what was it like? Remember the three, what was it? People you don't know, people you know, and then people your network knows. I really want you to concentrate on number 3 of that, people your network know, right? So like everybody you know knows a lawyer, an accountant, a banker, like somebody who could refer business to you, okay? You've got to go to those people, but you can't just go to them, sporadically. You've got to go to them with a value proposition and with some positioning, with a little bit of grace. And that means that you don't call them and you haven't spoken to this person in 3 years, call them and say, hey, what can you do for me? Again, it's Santa Claus versus the Grinch stuff. You got to build that relationship back up. But now, again, I can almost hear the business coach going, yeah, but I got to make money today, tomorrow, next week, 30, 60, 90 days. Unfortunately, like this. So what you do is you take your day and put, 25 of it towards getting clients right now and direct outreach. And then you'll get some results from that. But take 75% of your day and spend it towards nurturing relationships that are going to set you up for 10 years, right? Like, again, anybody didn't listen to last week's where I answered the question. I get a ton of feedback this week on this, like possibly more than I've ever got on anything before. When I said, what would Jeff Bezos do? What would Jeff Bezos do if he owned a coaching company, right? So basically check that out. But that's what I'd say. People that you know, who do they know? That's how you take your network and you pour gasoline on it, like big time. So there you go, Road Dog. That's the one that I want everybody to take away today. I think that's a big one.
Okay, beauty. Thanks, bud. And again, thanks everybody for tuning into another great episode of Business Coaching Secrets. Not in black and white, in white and yellow, as a matter of fact. But thanks for that, Karl. With the man on top of the hill, my boy, the colorblind King Karl. And if you're not on the inside and getting access to the pre-show, or you aren't getting Karl's daily emails and you just want more information on how to build your coaching company, visit focused.com and subscribe today. That's focused with an ED at the end, focused. Also, if you enjoyed the podcast, please share with a fellow coach or someone that you think might make a great coach, someone that's a great salesperson or just a highly motivated type. And of course, we'd appreciate it if you'd rate this episode, as we know that iTunes and Spotify give an insane amount of weight towards reviews. So all that said, please leave us a review if you like what you heard. And that's it, if you can believe it, for another week there, Big Shoots. And everybody, remember, progress equals happiness. Take care, everybody.
Karl Bryan built Profit Acceleration Software 2.0 to train business coaches how to find any small business owner more than $100,000 in 45 minutes without them spending an extra dollar on marketing or advertising. This becomes a business coach's superpower. So as a business coach, you'll never again have to worry about working with business owners that can't afford your high-end coaching fees. Check us out at focused.com.